Hey, this is Mike Lindsay from Vital MX. We're up in Nevada City, California, just north of the Bay Area, riding the 2019 Alta Redshift EXR. What's EXR? It's basically their dual sport bike. They're all-arounder, do-all, and the R is the upgrade. As we did earlier this year, we rode their MX and then their upgrade MXR. This is an upgrade to their EX model from 2018. The R gets their upgraded battery pack, all the electronics, pretty much everything that gives it more juice. There's not only updates to the battery pack to actually sustain a longer usage, but there's also increased power at the same time. This comes down to not only the battery pack itself, the control units, the way it produces and manages all that power, along with what's they're kind of well known for at this point is having a 4-map system, starting with a basic map 1 that even a beginner can jump on the bike and putt around, map 2 going into 3 and 4 that just at each point increases the power and changes the characteristic, going from these really easy to ride, low torque settings that just kind of taper off and are really easy to control, moving into more and more aggressive power that builds continually through the range as it revs out. So let's talk about the riding experience in off-road. How is it without a clutch, without the ability to shift? There's some unique tendencies. As we kind of talked about the motocross bike, there's a lot of things you're able to focus on when you don't have to think about those instances. It's really nice in the tight stuff. The bike changes direction so easily. I find myself pushing more and more and more on the switchback style trails as you have these little edges pushed up against tree trunks to bounce off of, and you're skidding the bike in and using that really connected immediate power to get out, and you're just thinking about brake, turn, throttle. It makes it so easy to flow and have such an enjoyable time. Now I will admit though, it's not perfect in some sense. There's a lot of positives with the way you can ride this bike, and until you really adapt to it, and just with my David, there's a couple things I do miss about how you can use a clutch and a few things to load the bike differently. But for the most part, there's a lot of simplicity that comes with this bike that I think a lot of people would enjoy out on the trails. Of course, some of the more unique ones is we're out here with a big group. You're able to literally ride right along and chat with guys on a fire road. You don't really need to have any of the communications if you're in a big group, any of the boxes and the helmets or anything like that. You're just able to ride right up next to somebody and just a little bit higher. You don't have to really yell at them. You can hear them. Makes it really easy to just get around with a group. So what really makes this bike unique is the power, the amount of power it's still able to make as a dual sport bike. When we talk about combustion engine bikes, they really struggle, especially here in Southern California, to get through the regulations. You're talking about a bike that's been very choked down, that's now limited on power compared to its motocross brethren. In this case, this bike has all the exact same internal workings as the MXR and has all the power capabilities of that bike if you really want it. And this makes it awesome not only for, as I said, just its general dual sport usage, but it goes even a little bit farther. Typically, if you're gonna ride dual sport bike, you gotta imagine you're gonna be up in the mountains, you might be in Colorado, Utah, I don't know, Canada, just places where there's a lot more elevation change where you're gonna ride this bike, and that's where the biggest difference is. Lack of oxygen means nothing to it. Electricity isn't affected by altitude. We were able to ride this bike in a really wide range of scenarios. We started out near Alta's headquarters in Brisbane, which is basically on the edge of San Francisco. We rode through the city, all over the place, just took a nice leisurely ride, popped some wheelies around town, had a great time. Then we came up here a couple hours north, up into the mountains, starting at an elevation of 5,000 feet and continuing up from there, riding through town, out in the mountains, playing on a little bit of a single track enduro loop and up into the hills doing some climbs. And there's no change of power at any point. Where you ride, even a good EFI bike, you feel that loss in power as the elevation goes up. Even if it runs clean, it's still a loss of power. This bike feels the exact same as it did right at the water at San Francisco as it does right up here in the mountains. Of course, the other thing they have to touch on is what's the battery span life like when we're doing these kind of rides? Well, of course, a trail ride's a lot different than a motocross track. You're just not pegged wide open all the time. You're on off the throttle, a lot of blipping around, a lot of, like I said, the fire roads, downhills. There's a few situations where you open it up, but just a lot of different throttle management. And this is where I was really impressed. The first hour and a half we rode the bike, we rode a fairly aggressive enduro loop. A lot of on-off throttle, but a lot of situations where I could be very aggressive with the bike. I burnt through just what they have on their little bar set, 1 bar over half. So probably about 55% of the battery was used over that. So realistically, I could have got nearly 3 hours of fairly aggressive single track use out of this battery. We came back to eat lunch, plugged them into the generator for about 45 minutes back to full charge. We did a lot more wide open riding on the way back, a lot of fire roads, a lot of big hill, like soft hill climb sections, and then some really fast riding through town on the way back. And we used up a little bit more than that. It was probably about 65% of my battery, maybe 70 over the next hour and a half to 2 hours, with a lot of very wide open span, up over 50, 60, up into near the 70-mile-an-hour mark in some places on the way back, where it was taking away a little more, but still, even at the rate we were going, I could have got over 2 hours of usage at this much higher speed of riding. All in all, what I found really unique is kind of hitting the check boxes. It's a dual sport bike. I can ride it anywhere. It's plated. Doesn't matter what state, what country you're dealing with. There's no emission problems. There's no smogging it. There's no issues trying to uncork it, maybe getting caught by, you know, a ranger or something for trying to take your combustion bike and trying to get back some of that power loss from getting them street legal. You can just use this anywhere. You can have a blast on it. And that's ultimately what I love about it. Is I ride a dirt bike because it's fun, and out on the trail, being able to really get even more into the moment, being able to focus less on certain aspects of shifting and clutch, and being able to be more attentive with throttle, brake, and how I pivoted and changed direction. It made the experience so much more interesting at times. What can I say? Like I said, it's an experience. It's a different experience than what you're going to get on a combustion bike, and I think that's what's fun of it. It's still a dirt bike, it's a blast, but it's an all-new experience, and me personally, I think it's worth one having.